In the 1930s, Bradford's New Victoria Cinema had its own athletics club. It had a membership of over 100, and the sports activities included football, swimming, tennis and rowing. Sunday fixtures were arranged within an 80-mile radius of Bradford. The club's cricket team was especially successful, and there was even talk of it having its own permanent ground. The Second World War pretty much ended the athletics club. Competitions were a regular feature at the New Victoria during the 1930s and 40s. The first beauty contest was in June 1934, a novel bathing bell competition. The New Vic hosted many of these through the years, with countless numbers of local lasses in swimwear stood before huge cinema audiences, who were also the judges. The bikinis became gradually less conservative, so perhaps it was no surprise that they were banned by 1949. There were also beauty pageants with nightly heats to discover Miss Bradford, who would then compete for the title of Miss Yorkshire, who would then compete for the title of Miss Great Britain. On-stage singing competitions were also regular events at the New Victoria Cinema, as were variety talent contests. The New Victoria's in-house orchestra were also radio stars in the 1930s. Weekly broadcasts across the regional airwaves direct from the cinema began in February 1932. The New Vic's doors opened early to allow audiences to watch the broadcasts before the day's first film show. The cinema's Wurlitzer similarly took centre stage in radio broadcasts. Organist Norman Briggs could be heard by local lads overseas during the war, and Arnold Loxham became a nationally famous name. The Gaumont years are mostly remembered for the shows performed by rock and roll legends and pop stars, but before all that, the theatre had capitalised on its standing as the North's largest indoor venue by hosting many concerts featuring orchestras and ballet. Some productions required a stage larger than the neighbouring Alhambra. The Gaumont Theatre also hosted 2 pantomimes on ice. The giant stage was converted into an ice rink. The Gaumont Ballroom became mostly a venue for private hire in January 1962, with only a members-only Sunday club providing a weekly dance. However, the Rank organisation capitalised on the new bingo boom by temporarily utilising the room as a makeshift bingo hall, but this was short-lived and the ballroom closed for good at the end of the year. When Bradford's Gaumont Cinema was closed in November 1968, the Wurlitzer organ managed to survive the destruction of the Odeon Twins conversion works. The instrument was purchased by enthusiasts from the northeast who had 1 week to remove the organ and its instruments immediately after the cinema had closed. They eventually acquired a former chapel building in Howden-le-Weir, which today houses the working Wurlitzer and is now called the New Victoria Centre. The Telegraph and Argus showbiz writers shared the Odeon Twins cinema with an unlikely film critic in the 1970s, a cat called Susie. Peter Holdsworth noted that if she lost interest in a film, she would jump from the apron stage in front of the screen and leave, but Susie had a knack of returning should the plot improve. For guidance, it was almost a matter of never mind the picture, just watch the cat, said Peter. There was more to the Top Rank Club than bingo. Several famous names of stage, screen and radio made personal visits there over the years. Some well-known shows were even adapted for the Cabaret Bingo Club circuit, including ITV's The Price is Right with Leslie Crowther and Mr and Mrs with Derek Beatty. The Odeon era also provided the building with its biggest films during its 70-year history as a cinema. Some might suggest that the first Star Wars movie was its biggest triumph with its massive queues in early 1978, but a film that was also screened at that time actually provided even more impressive statistics. Making its debut in April, Close Encounters of the Third Kind stayed in Odeon 1 until August, a massive 18-week residency that would never be beaten or equalled at the cinema. The Odeon's most successful box office title was actually Jurassic Park in 1993. The most celebrated detail about the former Odeon Building has to be the fact that it is a survivor in every sense of the word. When it opened as a super cinema in 1930, only 3 other theatres in the country exceeded the New Victoria in terms of audience capacity. However, those 3 cinemas have since been demolished. In the late 1930s, 2 other large cinema rivals appeared in the centre of Bradford. These too have also since been demolished. The building also successfully survived leisure interest competition such as television, bingo and home video. Following the Odeon's closure in July 2000, the building lived in the shadow of a very real threat of demolition for a decade. However, Bradford Live have since stepped forward with a vision to bring the building back into use, and we eagerly await the future stories that will similarly be generated within its historic walls.